Okay, not too long ago I did a video on the iFlytek AINote. This lovely thing. It was it still is, an e-ink tablet that does note-taking. Comes with the pen. You can buy this case separately. It runs Android and uses Google Play. It has a built-in Notes app, and one of the key features of the Notes app is that it does transcription and summaries, meeting notes. And it's pretty good at what it does for what it is. It's better than a lot of the other e-ink tablets that are out there in terms of its AI capabilities for transcription and summarization. But I mentioned in that video that I couldn't get past the fact that I'd spent a lot of time with Plaud, and I just thought that Plaud was better at the transcription and meeting summary, note summarization kind of thing. Well, I have the Plaud here. I'm going to talk a little bit about it today because in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about AI transcription, summarization as it comes to Soundcore Work. I recently picked up the Soundcore Work because there are a lot of AI transcription, recording, note-taking devices out there, and most of them are like the Plaud. It's in its case. If I take it out of its case, this is what it looks like. It's a credit card type device. It's got a proprietary charger on the back. Got a little button you use to connect it to your phone or your tablet or whatever you're using to connect it to the app. And then you hold it to record, and it's got a little slider if you want to record phone calls or if you want to just record outright. This is the regular Plaud. There's now, Plaud Pro that has a little screen on it, which looks really neat and useful because you really don't know the battery level of this Plaud unless you connect it to the app. But I have really grown to like this. I use it every week in church for sermons. But now that Soundcore has come out with one, this little small device like this, it kind of reminds me of the Note pin style. You can get the Plaud. Plaud comes in a pin that you can hang around your neck or clip to your clothes. And it's the same thing here with the Soundcore. You got this clip, magnetic little clip here that you can connect to clothing. It comes with this lanyard cable that you can clip around it and wear it like a little necklace. That can be handy if you want something that's with you all the time. You want to wear this, clip it to your clothes or wear it on the lanyard, then it's easier to have with you all the time. I do like this form factor with this charging case. I love that the charging case charges via USB-C. I hate that the Plaud has a proprietary charger. So I really wanted to test this out and see how it performs against Plaud, which has been my gold standard for a while in terms of transcription and note summarization. But I didn't want to just go there. I wanted to take a little bit further because I talked also in my video about the iFlytek that there are a lot of apps out there that do the same kind of things. In fact, you may have one built into your phone already. If you use an Apple device, you've got Apple Notes. If you have a Samsung device, there's Samsung Notes. Most of the other brands have their own Notes apps now. Lenovo has a Notes app, and Nothing has a Notes app, and Nothing has a little recording feature built into their operating system that you can use with the little button on the phone, especially with the latest phones. So there are a lot of different options out there. There's apps in the App Store for both iOS and Android that do a lot of this. There's Good Notes and all kinds of note-taking apps. How do they really actually perform? So not only did I want to compare Plaud and Soundcore Work, which I think are direct competitors, but I also wanted to see, well, bring in the iFlytek, I've got it. Bring in Apple Notes, I have an iPad. Let's bring in Samsung Notes, I've been using that for years, but I've never really used it for transcription and summarization. Let's see how that performs. I tried out Otter.ai, which is one of the apps that you can get in the Google Play Store. And I just wanted to see how all of these kind of work, how they handle the summarization, how they handle, key points, whatever features of these different apps and hardware recorders. And that's what this video is really about, showing you what do you really get when you step into one of these platforms. What kind of notes do you get? And I'm putting it through a very strange kind of test. Probably unique to people who care about video editing. I decided to download one of DaVinci Resolve's training videos on editing part 1. The video is about an hour and 10 minutes, and I had a whole bunch of devices going, recording it, transcribing it on the fly.
Assembling the material directly in the and start putting together this edit. And from the sort menu in the media pool, just click and make sure that you're organizing these clips by clip name. This will put them in the order that we're roughly interested in. In this case, we actually have int 01, and it's called shoot the real world based on the naming convention that we're using for this project. You can see that as I'm scrubbing backwards and forwards, my live media preview is on so that I can actually see the content of that clip. If my audio scrubbing was also turned on, I would also be able to hear the audio scrub as I move my mouse back and forth. To turn the audio scrubbing on and off, you can use Shift S. I'm going to double click this clip, and that will actually open it directly into the source viewer. Now I can use the scrubber bar here in order to be able to return to the beginning of that clip. And I'm just going to play the clip through just so that we can all listen to the interview. You could use the space bar or the L key.
So, in this film, making a documentary about how the airplanes changed the world, it was really important to go out and shoot.
And it's a unique kind of video because it's different than a meeting where you have different speakers, and it's different than even a lecture or a sermon, because although you do have just one speaker, the speaker is actually giving you step-by-step instructions and showing you things that it's difficult to capture in audio when you're watching a video, right? So I want to see how well do these devices perform, and how well do the different software packages perform in terms of recording this. And will any of them provide me with something that I could actually use later to refer back to? Like, how did I do that thing? How do I get that menu to pop up? How do I make that thing happen? Can any of them actually handle something like that? Because that's kind of an unusual request, I think, of audio transcription and summarization. But we're going to try it out and see what happens. And you're here for the ride. Thanks for coming along. Here we go. Okay, so we're here in Apple Notes on my iPad Pro. This is an M1 iPad Pro. I don't know that it matters, but here we have the transcription. So we've got the transcription of the full audio, which isn't super interesting to me for the purposes of this conversation, but it is here, so you can see that. You can go through this and understand what it thought it was recording. But then also, you've got your summary here. And this is the whole summary. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. And it really is just summarizing the whole entire video, right? Went to organize footage in DaVinci Resolve, import the footage, create bins, use metadata. Smart bins can be used to filter clips. Process of editing video involves selecting sound bites from interview clips, inserting B-roll. Source viewer allows for detailed waveform analysis, blah, blah, blah. The timeline in DaVinci Resolve 17 offers various zoom options, full extent, details, custom zoom, allowing for better control, blah, blah, blah. Process of editing a documentary about airplanes involves trimming interview clips for a sharper start and using the trim edit mode to refine the edit. Audio levels are adjusted, music is added, additional clips are appended, further refined. The video demonstrates various editing functions in DaVinci Resolve, including ripple edits, shuffle insert edits, slip edits, speed changes, also covers match frame, and replace functions for synchronizing clips and finding alternative takes. Additionally, it shows how to split clips and adjust audio tracks. So that's the entire summary here of that 1 hour, 10-minute video. And you can see this is really strictly giving you a summary. It is not really going through and creating sections or segments. It's not really outlining the different aspects of the video. It's just giving you an overall, in order view, because you start with bringing in the footage, then you go into smart bins, and you go into editing sound bites from the different clips, and then you've got your timeline and your trimming steps, and then the overall conclusion. It is a proper summary. There's nothing I can say about it being inaccurate. It captured everything here correctly in terms of what the overall process was for the video, but you couldn't really go back to this and do anything with it, right? There's no particular instructions that it captures here. It could be a good high level, like if you wanted to remember, okay, what did part 1 cover versus part 2? okay, then this is really good for that. But if you wanted to refer back to these notes and use them to kind of help you with future edits in terms of, well, how did he do that? How did he get into the zoom options? How did he do the trimming? How did he get into that blade tool? You don't really have any of that here. It's really just a summary that's just meant for identifying what's in this video. And in that respect, it's a perfectly lovely summary. But as you'll see in some of the other video summaries that we have, it's not really as detailed or as helpful as some of the others we're going to take a look at. So that's what we got here, though, with Apple Notes. It can do summaries. So you have this built in. If you already have an iPad or an iPhone, you've got this. You don't have to pay for this. It's already here. So if this is all you need, you're good to go. Now we're here in the iFlytek in the AINote. And in this tab, we've got the actual recording. You can see it starts with, "Hi, I'm Chris. I'm an editor and DaVinci Resolve Master Trainer." So we've got the transcription in here, and that goes on, obviously, for quite a while. But you can see that it's captured here. In the next tab, though, is what we really care about. This is where we have the meeting minutes that it created from the audio, the transcription summary. We see we've got the title here, DaVinci Resolve Editing Workflow Overview. We've got our basic information with the date. We've got the Chris, who you saw in the transcription. He said he was the DaVinci Resolve Master Trainer. We've got the project, which is Age of Airplanes documentary. The client, that name, I don't know if you noticed on the iPad, I think it said it was like Terwilligan or Terwilligate or something like that. The name was, to be fair, I couldn't spell it on my own. I'd have to go look that up too. So they put in here surname to be confirmed, but his first name was Brian. And the purpose we've got for editing, media organization, metadata usage, smart bins, and timeline setup in DaVinci Resolve to assemble a short trailer. So this is good. You get your basic information here at the top. I like that it gives you date. I like that it gives you presenter, and it even tells you the project. I like the way this is laid out. It really outlines what you're going to get in this video. It is a video about editing using this project for this client, and that's really helpful. So you got the agenda overview, and this kind of gives you an overall outline of what's going to happen in the video. You're going to create a new project, set up storage, input footage with the bins, organize audio and video, apply and import metadata, configure automatic custom smart bins, batch rename clips using metadata, create timeline, and begin assembly edit. So that's the overview of what's going to happen. And that's pretty much what went through in the video. Then we see here in key decisions and actions, we've got segments. We got project setup, we got media storage and import. And each of these, we're going to have bullet points. And you're going to see this is going to be very similar when you look at other options that we're going to review later in this video. This is a really standard kind of format of segmenting the content and then putting little points from each segment in bullets. So here we got project setup. Created the new project, Age of Airplanes, accepted prompt to change project frame rate, and open the media page, media storage and import. We've got added new storage location, imported video and audio folders, using add folder and subfolders to media pool, creating bins. Now, it is kind of giving you instructions. If you think about what you need to do to open up a project, create a new project, you're naming it, you're going to change the project frame rate to match whatever the video is. It is kind of going through step by step here and telling you what you need to do. After media storage and import, we've got audio organization with the bins, music for trailer clip, VO for voiceover. It tells you create bin with selected clips for 2 voiceover clips. And the sound effects, it says, are already grouped. We've got video organization with keywords. So they previewed the clips, disabled the audio scrubbing. I like here that it gives you a specific command, key combination, Shift-S. That's really useful. Tag 3 interview clips with keyword interview. So it's telling you here what keyword to use. Tag credits clip with keyword credits. So again, you're getting specific information. Observed auto-generated keyword smart bins. That comes from that. With metadata import and usage, we've got open the inspector and the file tab for editable metadata fields. So it's telling you to go to the inspector and go to the file tab so you can edit the metadata fields. That's really helpful. Imported the logging from the CSV and gives you the file name. This is actually the file name. Via the file, import metadata to the media pool. So again, it's telling you, go to file, import metadata. unchecked clip start and end time code. There's no time code in CSV. And the result, you got 27 clips with scene, shot, take indicators, and comments. We got project-wide search, filter by scene, filter by comments, automatic smart bins here with preferences and user editing. Automatic smart bins, you already enabled that. You got a new scene category, smart bins, a file for creating a new custom smart bin with B-roll, and then your rules for the filtering. Does not contain interview or credits. So again, these are steps that he went through to create these smart bins. As he's creating his B-roll, he doesn't want it to be interview, he doesn't want it to be credits. And the sub rules, you've got keys again, Option, Alt, Plus. Clip type is video and audio, and then out of that you get a dynamic smart bin of B-roll populated with not interview, non-credit video clips. So these are steps that he went through in the video. This is actually telling you how to kind of achieve this, and it's all written here. So this is actually really useful. Batch renaming the clips using the metadata. I like here that it tells you to set the naming pattern. This is what he did, and you'll notice that it's got percentage symbols in here as opposed to the word percentage. It's smart enough to know that he's using this as a variable, and it actually recorded it the way it was intended to be recorded. That's really smart. You're going to see that's not everything does that. And so you've got your smart bin, you've renamed it with your pattern, and then you get smart searchable clip names. So you're going through the steps and it's telling you what's the result of these steps. The result is you get consistent searchable clip names. It's really helpful. Your timeline creation, again, going through each step, telling you what he did, showing pretty good detail here. He's doing overwrite edits via the timeline viewer. He's navigating with up arrow and J and L keys, using detail zoom and full extent zoom, identifying edit out points, loaded his next interview, and the tools, shortcuts, and options. We're going through the same kind of thing. Importing, you're seeing what files and what segments of the menus to select. And the same thing in here, you've got the variables, how to navigate with playback, again with your specific keys, spacebar, and your J and L keys, up arrow. Then after you've gone through all those segments and you've seen each of those steps, we got a segment here for what are the risks, issues, and other things that need to be confirmed. I mentioned before that the last name of the filmmaker, Terwilligan or something like that, it's indicated here that transcription's unclear and you need to correct the surname. The CSV logging specifics, it says here the schema fields and the source are assumed standard, but letting you know you should confirm that. The audio scrubbing behavior was briefly toggled, but the exact desired setting, you'll need to confirm that during edit. And further assembly decisions and context selection from interview 2 to be confirmed. This is something that was, I think, one of the points that he mentioned, like you would need to work through finalizing exactly how you want that to look with the filmmaker in this particular example. And then we got our next steps: confirm filmmaker's name, finalize project metadata credits, continue assembling the trailer, because again, in the video, he went through all the steps and he had, I would call it a draft project at the end of it, but you're going to want to, continue refining it. The interview selects, you're going to want to integrate more B-roll because he had a whole bunch of B-roll that he could use. He had music and sound effects. And you're going to want to make sure that you've got your bins and your smart bins set up properly, and you've got your version control so you can duplicate your timeline for iterations with version 2 and version 3. And that's everything. This is actually pretty good. The way iFlytek arranges this is it has the pages. So you've got your initial page. If I had taken notes, that would be the first page here, the transcriptions here, and then the summaries here. And then if I wanted to create another page, I could create another page. So it puts each of those segments in separate pages, kind of, sort of. But how long this is, you can see that it's not super long, but it's got a pretty good amount of detail. I'm just going to scroll through it really as quickly as I can so you can see how long this is. It's probably a good 4 or 5 pages of information, I would say, depending on how big of a page. Actually, there are page breaks in here, so I probably should have been counting. But yeah, there's probably about 5 pages or so of information for 72 minutes and 72 minutes and 14 seconds, it says up here at the top. So this really condenses it pretty well. It's captured a lot of the things I would care about if I wanted to refer to this in the future in terms of what keys, what key combinations, what keywords, what menus, what selections, what options, what things to think about. This is actually a pretty decent transcription and a pretty decent summary that I could take and use with DaVinci Resolve in the future if I wanted to. So that's what you get out of the iFlytek AINote 2. So now we're looking at the Samsung Note summary. And the first thing you notice is that it's got sections, and each section has bullet points underneath it. And these bullet points are primarily summaries of what's going on at that point in time in the video. We've got this starter one here where it talks about, there's the introduction to DaVinci Resolve and that they're creating a new project, navigating the media page. In the next section, you see it's accessing system storage. Media management is talking about importing footage. It's really just summarizing what's happening. In each of these sections, organizing media clip, it's telling you, okay, it's creating bins. We're dragging clips and the smart bin, using smart bins and thumbnail previews. It's really just each bullet point is kind of summarizing what's happening at that point in the video. And there are no timestamps, so you don't have a time to link back to in the video. It's just going through it section by section and giving you about 3 bullet points for each section. So it is correctly summarizing what's happening in each section, but it's not really giving you a sense of how to do anything that it's talking about, right? So it talks about, keyword, adding keywords to clips, but it doesn't give you examples of what those keywords are. It talks about organizing them. It talks about populating data, clicking and typing, but it's not telling you what to click or what to type. It's talking about importing data, using the file inspector, but it's not telling you how to get to file inspector. It's really just summarizing what's happening at each point in time in each section and giving you very concise bullet points of what's happening, but you wouldn't really be able to go back and pull up this summary and then go through and figure out, okay, what was happening? How can I reproduce this? How can I reproduce these steps? What keys were used? What menus were clicked? What settings were used? What naming conventions? It's really just a very concise and correct summary of what's happening, but you couldn't really use this summary to learn from. You couldn't take this summary and sit down and start editing video and have any kind of tips or helpful hints on how to be successful. There is a lot of summary here. You have 10 pages covering the hour and 10 minutes of the video, but all of the summaries are pretty much the same. You do occasionally get some information here in the dynamic timeline zoom. You'll see it talks about using Shift-Z for full timeline zoom and returning to the previous zoom level. There's a Shift+ scroll wheel for track height. So occasionally you do see some information here that you could use practically when you're working with DaVinci Resolve and you want to refer back to these notes. There's occasional information in here that's useful, but for the most part, it's really just summarizing. Even here in audio scrubbing, it's not telling you what steps it used to scrub through the audio. It's just telling you that scrubbing happened. And that's really mostly what you see here in this summary. It is a very, again, accurate and concise summary of each of the sections, and the sections make sense. And it's going through it in order, and it has, correctly kind of categorized the work into these nice little bullet points. So if you really just want to know what's going on, but you don't necessarily want to use these notes to refer back to be better at video editing or knowing what steps that the editor took, then this is a pretty decent summary. It's just not helpful for use when you want to sit down with DaVinci Resolve and figure out what you need to do to get through the project. So here we have the notes from Plaud. Now it says Samsung Notes Audio here because I failed to bring out the Plaud recorder and record at the time I was recording with everything else. And I was not able to work enough time into my schedule to go back and replay it. So what I did was I exported the audio from Samsung Notes and I imported into Plaud because one of the advantages of the Plaud platform is that you can import audio from anywhere as an audio file, and it will transcribe it and generate notes for you. So that is what I did. So you can actually really compare this directly with the Samsung Notes summary because they use the exact same audio file. We start off right away with little differences in the format of these notes. You still get the topic or the name of the file at the top, but now we've got fields for date and time and location and instructor. Now, the Plaud summary generated here was using the intelligent summary where it picks the format for you. I did not pick a template for it to use. I told it to go ahead and do the intelligent summary approach and generate the notes that I thought it was appropriate based off of the audio type. So what we have here is we have a nice overall summary of what the video is about. It tells you, the date. It tells you what the video was about, who was it, who was the person who was speaking, what were they speaking about. It's a pretty decent summary, giving you an overall perspective of what's in the entire video. And that can be really useful, especially if you're referring back to this in the future and you don't really remember, okay, what was this? What were these notes about? Having that overall summary and not having to scroll through all of the notes in the document could be really useful. So the difference we have here right away is we've got different sections. We've got knowledge points, and then we end up with questions and action items or assignments, which is a different format than Samsung Notes or Otter or really anything we've seen so far. The knowledge points walk through what's going on in the video. So we have this beginning here where it's talking about the project setup. You'll notice right away a difference in how the Plaud summary is generated because we're starting at the very beginning and it's telling you, okay, what to do. Literally start in Project Manager, click New Project. Here's what to name it. Click Create. It resolve and it opens it in the cut page. Automatically, you can see this is much more useful for sitting down with these notes and being able to kind of walk through the steps that you would need in order to start a new project in DaVinci Resolve and then do all the different things in the video that the instructor did. So again, you've got pretty detailed instructions here. It tells you in the media page, right-click to add new, navigate to the documents, editing folder, choose open. It's pretty detailed. And you'll see that it's pretty much like this through all the sections. You've got your folder structure, how to organize your audio clips. It's telling you what bins to create, how to do the voiceover clips, organizing your video clips with the smart bins and the keywords. It tells you what keywords were used. It tells you how to create the smart bins. It's got information on how you import the metadata into your media pool. It tells you how many different clips should have come through. It tells you what to do with the inspector in order to see the scene, the shot. And it goes on like this through pretty much each section. And the sections are numbered, which this is a Word document that I generated. So it will collapse these into sections that you can navigate to or use in your table of contents. And they're numbered here. It does that in, I think, pretty much every summary, but the fact that they're numbered here makes it easier to kind of keep track of where you are. We don't have timestamps here again, but you at least do have the clips that are the sections that are numbered. And again, in each section, it's pretty much telling you almost exactly what he's doing. It's even smart enough here with this renaming clips to give you the percentage signs instead of the word percentage, which in another summary you'll see. It wasn't quite that smart. So there's really some intelligence here in knowing, okay, it's not the word, it's actually the symbol. And as we go through here, it will tell you about sorting, how to do the in and out points, what keys to click in order to set your in and out points, your metadata, managing audio sources, editing. It's all pretty detailed. You could really actually sit down with these notes and kind of go through and do a lot of these steps on your own with this project or with a project of your own, just following the same kind of format. And it goes through each section that way. There's 27 sections, I believe. And it goes through and it tells you in each one what's happening and how to recreate it to the best of its ability. And in most cases is actually really, really useful. There is a section here for questions. You'll see that it's blank. You could insert your own questions here if you wanted to, if there was anything that you thought was unclear. And then this assignments really just kind of goes back through all of the tasks again. It's pretty much the same as the sections, but it's telling you here's the practical list of steps that you need to do to recreate what he did. And that is the entire 8-page summary here in Plaud, which is pretty useful. I think that this is a really good summary of what was practically done so that, again, you could use this and actually get through some steps in DaVinci Resolve and at least have a lot more information about what keys to press and what steps to take than what you got out of the Samsung Note summary. So that's what you get from Plaud. And now here we have the Soundcore Work summary. This time I had to export it as a PDF. I did upload it from Soundcore, from the Soundcore app into my local cloud storage as a Word document, but I couldn't open it in Word on my tablet. So I exported it as a PDF, which is what I'm showing here. And again, we see some similarities to the Plaud summary. We do see that there's an overall summary right here. And we have the time and the location and related personnel. So if you, and again, you can export this as a document or a text file. So you can update these files with time and location if you want to. Now this section at the top that I just skipped over, this is unique to Soundcore. These tags that are in here are all created by Soundcore. I didn't go in and plug in any of these tags. It automatically populated those on its own, which could be useful depending on how you want to use your notes. If you use your notes, you export them to something like Notion or Obsidian or Capacities, then having tags could be really useful because then you're able to search based off tags. So that's actually neat, and these tags make sense. I could see that you would probably want to use these if you were searching for this particular document in your knowledge base. So again, like I said, we have an overall summary here, and then we go through, and much like all the others, you have the sections for what steps are taken throughout the video. Now, the formatting again here was automatically picked by Soundcore. I did not specify what type of template to use, so it's automatically determining that it's going to summarize what's going on in each section, and then it's going to give you practical tips, and in some cases, actionable guidance. This is actually pretty neat. That could be really useful for other types of videos like this where it's educational. Some information is being imparted that you might want to use in the future, and when you go back and kind of refer to it to figure out, okay, how do I want to do this on my own? Having the tips section and the actionable guidance is useful because then you can consider those when you take these steps in the future. So again, it's going through the steps and it's kind of telling you what to do. I wouldn't say that it's quite as detailed as the Plaud summary in terms of what exact steps to take. It is telling you that you create your new project, you should name it. You can select your source folders with your clips. You can preserve your folder structure. It's not going through though and telling you, go into Project Manager, click on this, name it this. It's not that detailed or that specific, but it is going through and telling you what the steps are. And again, the practical tips I think can be useful. Keep in mind, making descriptive project names so you know what they are, frame rate prompts so you don't have future issues. They are actually what it says. They are just practical tips. In each of these sections, you've got, again, 3 bullet points. That seems to be like the default for these different intelligent summaries, that you have 3 bullet points. And then in this case, you've got, instead of practical tips, you've got actionable guidance. It's telling you organize your clips, use smart bins to help you out, use keyboard shortcuts. It's not telling you what the keyboard shortcuts are, but it's telling you to use them. So you'll have to note that. Although you do have some shortcuts keys here for manual bins. So those are listed. With the metadata management, it tells you to add your keywords, import your metadata from CSV files, renaming your clips. Again, you've got practical tips here, save whenever you change something, use descriptive keywords, leverage metadata. Those are all, like it says, useful. You've got each of your sections here, again, with the 3 bullet points. And in some cases, it's telling you very specific, like here with the version numbers. In the video, they used this AOA trailer version 1 to track it. So it did call that out specifically, and it put it in quotation marks so you know that's straight out of the video. And it captured it correctly. Editing workflow with your drag and drop overlays and telling you where, to add your clips, how you can drag them in. It's telling you how to set in and out points, and it is telling you keys here. Keyboard shortcuts for override or insert are listed out here. And your tips, again, make sense. Always set your in points, your out points, using your overlays, leveraging batch selection. Those all make sense. In this next section with audio management, again, it's giving you some keys. It's giving you a little bit of information about what to do with your audio. I think most of the summaries included this 12 dB, minus 12 dB setting. So it's consistent with everything else here. And again, you got your practical tips. So it goes through pretty much like this. And in most cases, giving you at least what the keyboard shortcuts are, which I think are really useful because I know having those are the things I would write down. If I were taking handwritten notes, I'd want to write down what the keywords are, what the shortcuts are, whatever the key combinations, because I know I'm not going to remember those. I'm going to refer to those until they become, embedded in my brain and part of my muscle memory. So at least it is giving you most of those keyboard shortcuts, which is really useful. And so we just go through it all like this with a pretty good step by step. Not quite as detailed as the Plaud, but at least it is giving you keyboard shortcuts, and it is capturing information about what types of naming conventions you should use. As we go through here, you'll see it just continues on with giving you keys that are really useful, and the practical tips make sense. With the matching the frame rates, tells you, keys again here, your actionable guidance. These all make sense, and it's grouped and organized in a way that makes sense. I could sit down with these and at least, even if I don't have the step-by-step instructions, at least again, like I have a good sense of, okay, here's where I should be going. Here's what I should be thinking about, what I should be using on the keyboard to make things faster and easier for me, things that I should be thinking about to keep my information organized and be able to use my clips intelligently. So it has gone through and it's outlined everything that's in the video, and it's captured what I would say are the key bits of information, what steps you should take in what order, what keys you should be using, what kinds of things you should be thinking about to keep yourself out of trouble and keep yourself organized. This is pretty good. It's 9 pages of information for the 1 hour, 10-minute video. I would say this is a really decent summary. And if I had never seen the Plaud one, I would say this was the best of the bunch. But we'll talk more about that in the rest of the video. Okay, so now we've gone through a variety of different recording devices and applications. And so what would I say my overall impressions are? Well, before I go into that, I do want to mention that I did record with Otter.ai, which is an application that's available for Android and iOS. And because I didn't do a free trial or pay for the software, I actually think I've tried the free trial before, I don't have the opportunity to record more than 30 minutes at a time. And so I did record 30 minutes of it, and it did a decent summary. The one thing I really do like about the Otter.ai summary is that it has timestamps in it. So each segment, it breaks out the video into segments pretty much like everything else did with the 3 bullets underneath. But you get time codes on each one of those segments, and that can be really useful because then you can go back and refer later to, okay, where exactly in the video did he talk about smart bins or metadata or whatever, and you can go back and see that, and I think that's really useful. But because I wasn't able to get the whole video transcribed and summarized, I didn't really want to include a lot of detail on that one in the video. It is less detailed than most of the other ones that I covered. I think if we talk about this in order of detail and usefulness in this particular scenario, Apple Notes provided the least amount of information. It provided a good overall summary of what was recorded and what was in the video, but it didn't really give you the kind of details that you need in order to to follow instructions in the future, or to even be better at video editing. It's just going to tell you what was happening in the video, so that if you want to be able to figure out, okay, I've done summaries on all of these different DaVinci Resolve training videos, what was this one about again? It'll tell you that. It'll help you understand, okay, that's the one that's talking about age of airplanes. It's going back to the beginning. Otter.ai is a little bit more detailed than that, because it does break it down into segments, and then it gives you the bullet points for each of the segments, but it's not a step-by-step kind of thing where you can go back and refer to it as reference material in the future. With the iFlytek, you get a pretty decent amount of detail with, keywords and commands and file types and keywords to look for. And it's all laid out in a way that's pretty easy to understand. The iFlytek does give you more in terms of usefulness for future reference than you get with Apple or with Otter. However, you really do get the most bang for buck when you're going with the hardware recorders. With the Plaud, you get a lot of really good detail with step-by-step, almost step-by-step instructions. You could almost walk through the steps that he took in the video to do the editing on the Age of Airplanes trailer that he was creating. And it had a lot of good information about what you should be thinking about as well. Now, when it comes to that kind of detail, though, I will say that if you're looking for practical tips or actionable guidance or things to be thinking about in the future, Soundcore does have an edge over Plaud in that particular area. With those practical tip segments and the actionable guidance, it really does make you think, okay, these are things that I should be considering in the future. However, if you're just looking for detail in terms of what I should be doing, what steps I should be taking, I think Plaud had an edge over Soundcore in terms of really capturing the steps in a lot more detail than the Soundcore. But I think both of those are probably the winners depending on what you're looking for, and depending on what kind of pricing structure and what kind of hardware you're looking for, because all of this really in the end comes down to what kind of hardware you're looking for, what are you looking for out of your notes and your summaries. If you are looking for really good detail, step-by-step, even with a DaVinci Resolve training video, you're going to get really good responses out of the Plaud transcriptions. But if you really do want more tips and tricks and things to think about, then Soundcore, I think, might be the way to go. And from a hardware perspective, you prefer the Soundcore approach with the little small recorder that you can clip to your clothes or hang on a lanyard, whereas you really can't do that quite as effectively with Plaud, then it's something to think about. The hardware of the Soundcore I do appreciate over Plaud. Now, Plaud has a note pen. It's not quite as flexible as the Soundcore Work. Plaud has the Plaud Pro, which has a screen on it, which can be handy if you do want to see more information about what's going on with the device. But I think even with that respect, the Soundcore with the charging dock and the 3 lights, I think can give you at least more information than you get with the Plaud regular, the non-pro Plaud. So for me, I'm going to keep using Plaud because I have it and I've paid for 2 years in advance, so I'm going to keep using it. But I do think the Soundcore Work is a really good device from a hardware perspective and from a software perspective. And if I had never used Plaud, I'd be really impressed with Soundcore Work. So what do you think? What are you looking for from a transcription service? What are you looking for from a hardware recorder? Would you use any of these? Would you stick with whatever you've got? Would you stick with Apple Notes and Samsung Notes? Knowing that those built-in Notes apps aren't going to be quite as detailed as what you get when you pay for something. But if it's all you've got, it's absolutely better than nothing. Apple will give you a good summary. Samsung gives you a lot of good detail, just not step-by-step kind of instructions, but a lot of good detail on the overall topics that were covered in any particular audio, video that you're recording and transcribing. So that's a look at all of them, at least all the ones that I have now. We'll see where this whole industry goes in the future. I think that transcription services on phones and tablets are going to get better with time as more and more of these companies really start to incorporate more AI services into their operating systems. And it may be that in the next 2 to 3 years, the transcription you get with Apple Notes and the transcription you get with Samsung Notes and whatever Google wants to put on their devices in the future might be good enough that you might not even feel like you need to pay for something that's separate anymore, unless you're just worried about battery life on your phone. That's something to look forward to, maybe. Not having to spend more money, always a good thing. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you'd tried any of these, if you're willing to try any of these. Would you spend money on them? Curious to know how big of an audience these devices have out there. That's what I got. Thanks for watching.